Assalamualaikum and welcome back to Pandangan J. Today with us, our esteemed guest, Dato Sri Dr Jahaberdeen Mohamed Yunoos. And today we are going to discuss a highly debated, highly discussed topic in relation to the RCI on Batu Puteh matter. So, Dato Sri, without further ado, I'm going straight to the question. The first question is, Dato Sri, Prime Minister Anwar recently said in Parliament that Tun Dr Mahathir was at fault and had committed a big wrong over Batu Puteh, but that no action would be taken because of his age. Some MPs have also said he should not even be investigated or charged. What is your view, Dato?
Assalamualaikum, Fudel. Thank you very much for that question. And it's very current because you're discussing it in Parliament, I think last week. You're right. It appears that the Prime Minister did say in Parliament that Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed was at fault and had committed a big wrong. At least that's the impression that the public has. Now, while I can understand the political context in which the Prime Minister made that statement, however, as a lawyer, I must stress that it is not fair to anyone to make such a statement, including even to Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed, to be publicly declared at fault or guilty without the benefit of a proper legal process.
So you are saying the proper legal process is important?
Now, this is exactly why we have the legal process. I'm looking at the internet here, for example. An RCI report, even a statement in Parliament, is not the same as conviction in court. We must understand that in the first place. An RCI report is not the same as a conviction in a court of law. If we leave the matters there, the public may forever brand Tun Mahathir as guilty without him ever being given the chance to exonerate or clear his name before an independent judge. That to me is totally unjust. So, and the other argument that they make is about his age. I agree, compassion is necessary, but we must remember that compassion is always possible at the sentencing stage. If a court finds someone guilty, but age should not be a reason to stop the investigation altogether. Otherwise, we are creating two standards of justice which we must avoid. So, in fairness to Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed and in fairness to the institutions, we must let the process work. Investigations, Attorney General's decision and the courts. That way, if he is guilty, it is proven properly. And at the sentencing stage, his age, his health factor and all the other factors can be considered as mitigating factors. On the other hand, if he is not guilty, he can be fully exonerated. That would be, I think, Fudel, the balance between justice and compassion.
Can you briefly tell us what the RCI panel decided, Dato Sri?
Okay, that's a very important question. Now we need to know first, what did the Royal Commission Inquiry or the RCI decided? Well, the RCI decided, the RCI panel looked into whether or not Malaysia's withdrawal from the Batu Puteh case at the International Court of Justice in 2018 was proper. The majority of the panel concluded that Tun Mahathir's decision to withdraw was not just a personal opinion, but in fact a directive that caused Malaysia to lose a fighting chance in court. On that basis, they suggested and recommended that a criminal investigation be opened under the Penal Code for possible cheating or causing wrongful loss to the government of Malaysia. However, Fudel, it's very important to note that the panel was not unanimous. Two members, including a former federal court judge, dissented, did not agree with the panel's conclusion. They felt that at the most, it was a dereliction of duty, but not something that should be criminalized. So in short, the panel was divided. The majority pushed for criminal investigations. The minority said no crime at all was disclosed. That is the essence of the finding.
After the Batu Puteh RCI, what is the natural next step legally?
Yeah, probably we should have started with what is an RCI, or Royal Commission Inquiry. A A Royal Commission inquiry is essentially a fact-finding body. Normally, a RCI is established when there are controversial issues in the country or very important matter that needs to be investigated. Now, you must understand that RCI is a fact-finding body. It investigates, it hears witnesses, it gathers documents, but it has got no power to prosecute or convict anyone. Its report is purely advisory in nature. So when the RCI makes a recommendation, in this case suggesting that Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed ought to be investigated under the penal code, the natural legal next step would be to refer the matter to our enforcement agencies. This means that the police or the MACC, Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, must now open an investigation paper, take statements afresh, and collect admissible evidence. Once that is done, the matter goes to the Attorney General, who, under our federal constitution, is the sole public prosecutor in the country. It is the Attorney General and only the Attorney General under Article 145 of the Federal Constitution who can decide whether to charge, to close a case, or to ask for further investigation.
But some members of the public think that RCI has found Tun Mahathir as guilty. What can you say about this, Dato Sri?
So, Fudil, it is very important for the public to understand this. An RCI does not determine guilt. I repeat, an RCI does not determine guilt. Therefore, even in this case, the Batu Puteh RCI suggested or proposed that an investigation ought to be taken against Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed. It does not mean that Tun Dr Mohamed is guilty. It is not a court of law. Until and unless the Attorney General decides to prosecute and the court finds someone guilty beyond reasonable doubt, everything remains at the level of allegations or recommendations. And the other important point is this. At the same time, the government and the parliament can take the RCI findings for political accountability and even law reform to ensure, for example, that in the future, no single leader can unilaterally withdraw a case of such national importance without proper cabinet or even parliamentary debate. And in this case also, it is important for investigations to take place despite or in spite of the RCI investigations to ensure whether or not probably there was actually a collective decision by the cabinet to withdraw the Batu Puteh appeal, the Batu Puteh matter. So the process is clear. RCI, investigation, Attorney General's decision, and court trial if any. That's the pathway and that's how the rule of law works. Tun Dr Mahathir or anyone should go through the rule of law.
Therefore, should there be an investigation against Tun Mahathir, Dato Sri?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify that I'm not taking any political position against or for anybody. I am speaking as a lawyer, and therefore, legally speaking, my answer will be a resounding yes. Once the RCI recommends investigation, the natural next step is to refer the matter to the enforcement agencies. Whether it's Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed or anyone else, the principle is the same. The law must take its course. But an investigation is not the same as guilt, and I repeated this many times in my answer today. It is simply a process to verify facts and collect admissible evidence. After that, and only after that, the Attorney General will decide whether there is a case strong enough to go to court or not. So what I stress is this: we must allow the investigation to proceed without fear or favour.
Since some seems to think that Mahathir is guilty because of the RCI finding, is it fair to him not to proceed with the investigation? Also, some MPs are saying that because of his age being 100 and being a statesman, he should not be investigated or charged. What do you think, Dato Sri?
I think it is completely unfair to Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed and his record as a statesman in this country if the investigation does not take place. The RCI is not a court of law, and we should not think that Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed is guilty because the RCI is not and cannot find anyone guilty. In fact, it will be very unfair to leave the RCI report alone. because that leaves him condemned in the court of public opinion without giving him the opportunity to clear his name through proper legal process. So that is why an investigation is not only about accountability, it is also about fairness and justice to Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed. Another thing I must say is this: I find it extremely shameful that some parliamentarians are playing politics by saying that a police report should not even be made. The reason they say this is because Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed is very old, and therefore there should be no investigations, and therefore he should not be charged in court, and an old man should not be even sentenced to prison, and so on and so forth. Now all these are prejudgments, and most disappointingly, this is not how policymakers should talk. Policymakers should uphold the rule of the law regardless of who the person is, whether it's Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed or an ordinary citizen. The duty of the lawmakers is to uphold the rule of law, not to obstruct it by such arguments in Parliament. And to be fair, as to his age, his status as a statesman, with respect, the principle is very simple. And as a lawyer, every day we see this in court. No one, number one, no one is above the law, and no one is beneath its protection. Age or statesmanship or any other factor may be relevant at the stage of sentencing or compassion, but not at the stage of investigation. Why are we prejudging the matter? The investigation may reveal that Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed should not even be charged in court. If we start making exceptions based on politics, we are going to destroy the public trust in the justice system.
So, Datuk Sri, what do you think about the statement that it would not be proper if Tun Mahathir was found guilty and being sentenced at age 100? You know, being in the context of compassion, is it inhumane?
Okay, this is another matter I think we should be very, very clear. I think we need to separate two things. First of all, the principle of justice. If there's evidence of wrongdoing, then due process must take its course, no matter who the person is. The courts exist to decide guilt or innocence, not age or political status. The second principle is the principle of compassion. And I said earlier, this principle of compassion comes at the stage of sentencing if found guilty. And yeah, our legal system has always allowed age, health, and personal circumstances to be taken into account when the person is found guilty and when sentencing is going to be meted out. This is part of the public policy anyway. So if hypothetically someone of advanced age is convicted, the courts can consider a more lenient or humane sentence. But to say that someone should not even be investigated because of their age is completely, extremely, totally dangerous. This creates a two-tier justice system. The message that we should send out should be very clear. The law applies equally, but it can also show compassion where appropriate. That is what makes justice both firm and humane.
I think that's very clear, Datuk Sri, what you have put just now. The principle, the two principles, one is compassion and another thing is justice. But before I let you go, Datuk Sri, just to wrap it up and just for the sake of listener, how you conclude and how you summarize our discussion today, Datuk Sri?
Okay, my final word on Batu Puteh is this. I think Batu Puteh event is not about personalities. And I think we all should understand, the lawmakers, the thinking public, and everyone else should understand that it's not about personalities, it's about principles. It is about whether we as a nation truly believe in the rule of law. If we do, then no one is above the law. And no one is beneath its protection either. In other words, the law must proceed without fear or favour and also without prejudice. So the process must be allowed to take its course. Investigation, Attorney General's decision, and if necessary, the courts. At the same time, our justice system has room for compassion. But compassion must come after accountability, not in spite of it, not in place of it. That is the only way to strengthen confidence in our institutions and ensure justice is both seen and done, is done and seen to be done. And I also think, to be fair to Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamed, I believe he would want the investigations to proceed so that he has an opportunity to clear his name. and not judged guilty in the court of public opinion and on the theatre of political drama.
Thank you so much, Dato Sri, for a very comprehensive explanation, I would say. I think we are very clear as to what the RCI itself and the investigation itself, the two separate part of our discussion. And I believe, based on what you have explained, Dato Sri, we know for a fact that Tun Dr Mahathir is not guilty up until it is proven by the court of law. Thank you so much, Dato Sri.
Yes, Fudel, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. I hope that was useful for our audience.
I really appreciate the explanation, and for all who are listening, thank you very much, and we hope you will be with us in our next episode. Thank you again, and see you next time. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe.